Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Free Press Live yet again on Thursday night. I'm your host, Michael Moynihan, and what a crackerjack panel we have for you tonight. As usual, crowd favorite and opinion editor at Newsweek, Batya Ungar-Sargon, editor-in-chief of the Jewish Chronicle, first-time guest, Josh Kraushaar, and for you righteous Gentiles and goys out there, you know him from Axios and National Journal. He's a big wig. And the young gun, go for it, Free Press reporter Franny Block. You can't get better than that. All right, we got a lot to cover today because there's a few things going on in the news. We got to get to this presidential debate, right? We did an episode of Honestly about it, but there's a lot more to talk about with different voices. But then, because of that debate, we have to answer the maybe $5 question, 5,000 lira question. Are Haitian immigrants eating pets? They're not, by the way. If there's some MAGA infighting, which always is amazing, between a loony Laura Loomer and weirdly the less loony Marjorie Taylor Greene. And finally, our colleges pledging that they won't take political stances anymore as institutions, probably not in the classroom. All right, on Tuesday night, Donald Trump and Kamala Harris took the stage for their first debate, and the polls indicate what I felt, a lot of people felt, that Harris was the winner. But throughout the night, she kept her cool, and Trump less so. So here's DT, Donald Trump, taking the bait when Harris claimed that people leave his rallies early.
Respondents to the rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back.
In the history of politics, the biggest, the best, you fell for it. All right, and here is Donald J. Trump cramming in a bunch of buzzwords into one sentence. We'll see what this means.
Things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania.
The ones in prison. So Harris comes across as, kind of prepared and, didn't get the word salad that we kind of maybe expected. And here she is talking about abortion, one of the issues that she's kind of strongest on for Democrats.
Over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body.
Josh Kraushaar, thanks for joining us. We're very happy to have you on this panel. What do you think? I mean, she was, a lot stronger than I expected. And, I guess the low expectations, because I'm on Twitter too much and I see these compilations of her making not a ton of sense. What is your read on what happened on Tuesday night?
So, Michael, first, it's great to be here as a first-time participant on the live show. Look, Kamala Harris is an accomplished prosecutor, and her best moments in political life have been when she's had time to practice, to work on some lines and have the stage to herself and to execute with those scripted lines. And we saw that back in 2020 in her one moment that she did well in the 2020 presidential campaign when she attacked Biden for palling around with segregation of senators and busing. And that was her high point of a pretty otherwise lousy campaign, but she couldn't follow through. There wasn't a whole lot of strategy beyond that. But she's shown that she can kind of deliver the scripted moment, and she certainly did that in spades on this on the first debate, and maybe only debate we're going to see. Look, she was practicing for almost a week in Pittsburgh. We were trying to reach the Harris campaign to get comments on a lot of important news going on, and they a lot of feedback we got was that they're practicing the debate. She doesn't have time to actually deal with response of what's going on.
Josh, let me ask you a quick follow-up. The question I was asking myself while watching this is, she's doing extraordinarily well, and the people are reacting, and the polls are showing these snap polls that she did very well. Is that going to prompt her to say, maybe I can get in front of the news media now? Maybe I should actually do another interview rather than just the softball Dana bash. Do you expect her to stay underground? Do the Operation Bubble Wrap?
She should. I mean, I think people can sniff out someone who's not being authentic, and I still think she has issues over authenticity and whether she actually means what she says and whether she can actually talk beyond just having those nice scripted moments at a debate. So, look, she actually said today, I think at her rally in North Carolina, she wants to do more interviews. So we'll see if she means what she says. She's certainly, because of the success she had in Philadelphia, she wants to do more debates. I mean, the debate reminded me of the straight A student who practiced and studied for days and weeks, showing off her skills, and she did the work, she did the homework, and Donald Trump was winging it. He's doing what a lot, kind of reminds me in high school when I save things till the last minute and think you can get away with getting an A for the test, and it didn't work out. She was prepared. I mean, look, she had some great lines. The one thing that hasn't gotten, the quote that she said that I haven't seen get as much attention, was her line about him leaving office with the worst unemployment crisis since the Great Depression, the worst public health epidemic in a century, and the worst attack on democracy since the Civil War. I'm surprised that was sort of one of those things that the speechwriters, I'm sure, drew up in the practice, and she landed quite a punch at the debate. Yeah,
I mean, I would just say the very first part of that, kind of not his fault, the unemployment stuff, right? And the pandemic, really,
perception is reality, and correct. And that's and Michael, that's the debate that she's not the change candidate, right? She's not. She's the vice president. She needs to convince voters, improbably, that she's been in office and she's responsible for everything that's gone on over the last 4 years. But somehow she's the change from Trump. That's what she's trying to convince people.
I would say, Josh, except for when she isn't, because the beginning of the Afghanistan question, she was like, when Joe Biden pulled out of Afghanistan, it's like, oh, now you're not responsible. Francesca Block. What did you make of this? I mean, I think Josh is right about this stuff, but let's focus a little bit on Trump here. There's been a couple days. Your instant reaction's often different, and I've seen people make the argument that, hey, I think that went down with his base, and it wasn't as bad as the chattering classes and the media type actually think that it's just a typical Trump performance. What do you think?
Well, I think his base isn't who he needed to play to here in the debate. He needs to get independent voters, moderate voters, swing voters on his side to actually win the election. And so does Kamala Harris. And I think his performance was not something that would have been appealing to those voters that were maybe looking for something that seemed a little bit less chaotic for their presidential candidate. So I think in terms of playing to his base, I don't see his base changing their opinions. I think people probably were like, yeah, that's old typical Trump. But I think in terms of appealing to the voters he actually needs for this election, I don't know if it landed very well for them.
Batya, I'm wondering if you've changed at all. I mean, look, we did an immediate reaction after this, but the people who haven't listened to the Honestly that we did that evening, and shame on you if you haven't. What is wrong with you? It's free. It's amazing. Batya, have you changed your mind on this? Do you think he did better? Are a couple days kind of marinating in this stuff? What do you think now?
So everyone should go and listen to the Honestly conversation we had. It was a lot of fun.
Yes,
we were coming right off of this, it was great TV. I mean, whatever you say about it, right? My analysis then, I do stand by it. And it was that Trump did very poorly for all of the reasons that make him a good president. And Harris did very well for all of the reasons that she would be a bad president. And what I mean by that is that Trump very obviously was incapable of taking the advice that he must have been given by the entire consultant class, every elite, every donor, every, person with, any kind of power, telling him exactly what Franny just very wisely said, which is, this is the moment to keep it together and just talk about your record. You've got it. Just be cool, calm, and collected. And he was incapable of heeding that advice because he cannot listen to what the elites want from him, which is exactly why he was able to accomplish so much as a president. Because as we discussed at length and honestly, he took on the elites of the left and the right as president on things like immigration and tariffs. If you think that, elite conservatives, elite Republicans like tariffs, like, I got a bridge to sell you, right? And meanwhile, what Harris did was exactly what Josh just described. She was an amazing, amazing actor. She memorized all the lines. She delivered all the lines. She was a perfect reflection of what the elites in the Democratic Party, the McKinsey consultants, and everybody who's telling her what to do and how to sound and what to everything. She was a perfect reflection, a perfect apparatchik. And so she really nailed that event. But is that really what you want? Do you really want somebody in office who is going to simply be a reflection of this kind of like permanent bureaucracy of the Democratic Party? Or do you want someone who's going to tell the elites to go screw themselves because his job is to reflect the American people? So that's kind of what I said then. I really do stand by that. I have seen people say that if you are a struggling working class person and you saw Trump's performance, you wouldn't have seen that as bad. You would have seen that as an adept and accurate reflection of your own rage at the situation. And her kind of glib smugness would have come off as a kind of out of touch elite person. Franny, I wanted to ask you something. I a little bit hesitate to ask it because I'm not sure if it's sexist to ask you this, but I'm going to ask you because somebody asked me this.
I hope so.
I didn't know how to answer. And so I'm really curious what you think. They asked me if I, as a woman, kind of related to this kind of high-powered, in my opinion, extremely good-looking woman, like being up there in a very powerful position, not only holding her own, but really, really kind of, taking Trump to task in a way that did exhibit a lot of kind of power. If I related to that as a woman, if I felt proud or if I felt represented, and I really didn't know, I'm still struggling with whether I did. And I'm wondering if I could sort of offload that question onto you.
Well, I think I see that. I mean, she did have a presence on stage that I think was very powerful. And I mean, obviously we saw Hillary Clinton do that back in 2016. And I think people admired her for that as well, though I think it also rubbed some other people the wrong way. So I guess kinda. I also don't know how to answer the question. But I think what made it better and more powerful was the fact that we didn't hear her at the debate say things like, as somebody who's going to be the first woman president or the first Black president or the first Indian American president, the fact that she didn't play in to those DEI politics made it more powerful, in my opinion.
100%.
Yeah, as a man, I want to talk to Josh man to man. So you guys can go somewhere else for a moment. We're doing the Jezebel section for the moment. But Josh, quickly before we move on, I wanted to ask you something about this because, what you see from Donald Trump is what you typically see. You see him come untethered. He's very easy to agitate when you talk about the rallies and stuff. But he's also a terrible debater. He's just objectively a bad debater. And you see what he does in the spin room after. You see what's, very, very prominent in conservative media, conservative talk radio, et cetera. It is an attack on the moderators. And I think that actually would have been, because I think they were very bad, that would have been a good strategy. What did you think about the kind of the moderators and how they handled things? And do you think that people on the right and, Trump partisans are, overplaying the moderator things? That's what they're focusing on at the moment.
Well, first, let me get to the gender politics and then connect it to the moderators. That was a very alpha male move, by the way,
Yes.
Michael. Go into them.
Yeah.
They're losing, by the way. It's a losing.
Yeah, Batya, I'm talking. Okay.
I just have to weigh in here. Like Francesca made the great point that like Hillary leaned in so much to her gender in 2016.
Yeah.
Her slogan was "I'm with her." Like all the ads were all about the historic nature of her. Kamala has actually. This is where I actually have been pleasantly surprised by her messaging at the convention, at the debate. She has not leaned into identity politics. She is won the debate on merit, not on like special pleading. And she she kicked his ass. Like she really did very well on merit-based grounds. It wasn't identitarian grounds, and she has been very careful. She knows that it's very tricky. Gender politics plays a big role. There's a reason America hasn't elected a woman president. And I think she understands that if she leans into that too much, that was one of the biggest mistakes that Hillary made. I also think that there was a little bit of a psyop that we've all been talking about when she went after Trump's narcissism by mentioning the crowd size. And I thought Trump was actually kind of showing off his dominance early on. And she looked a little nervous at the beginning, asked about the economy, one of her weakest subjects. And then she just threw him off psychologically by mentioning the crowd size and kind of, punching him where it hurts. And that was just a brilliant psyop move. It was more about psychology than actual political point scoring. So that was another a way of turning the tables around on the sort of dominance versus the lack of dominance, for lack of a better word. To the moderator, the point of the moderators. Look, I did not have the same negative reaction to the moderators as a lot of people did. I thought Jake and Dana did a better job for the CNN debate. I don't like it when moderators try to offer fact checks in real time. I think that's the point of a debate. And I counted 3 or 4 times where they tried, and on 2 of the 3 times that they tried to do fact checks, I thought it was inappropriate and obnoxious and put the finger on the scale for Kamala Harris. I will say, though, that I thought it was appropriate for them to weigh in. I think they were prepared to talk about the Springfield, Ohio case. That wasn't a political debating point. That wasn't about a policy. That was targeting a community in a small town where Donald Trump was making stuff up. That could, frankly, we've seen it's actually had an effect. People have been threatened. They've had to close city government in Ohio because of the tens of millions of people watching and the lies that went out from Donald Trump. Laura Loomer apparently was the one feeding him this information. So I actually do think that there are some moments where you do weigh in. I think they were prepared to weigh in on that. I thought that one was appropriate. The other ones, if you want to debate about abortion, let the candidates debate about abortion. Violent crime, the violent crime rate is up, is down from 2022 to 2023, but it's up from 2019 to 2023. So that's the whole point of debating. You make the argument, you use the facts at your disposal.